I just feel like I've been around the block, ripping up fantasy stock, working around the clock. Look at the view from the top. Researching rookies a lot? No, I just be listening to pods. Yeah, one in particular, I'm just a messenger. Let me just pass on the rock. Browning, brunning, pruning, pronouncing ain't what he's doing. What he's doing is not losing, but infusing you with new things. And there's Dennis the Bennett, yeah. The man is a menace, yeah. Building a dynasty, some of the finest things. Promise you, you won't regret it. Sly as a fox, cultured in pop. Give him his props. Here is a thought, here is a box, and you cannot compare them at all. So don't even try. Careful with the news, but when you use a take, I take up Tony Fire. I mean Dyer, because anyone else is a huge mistake. Whoa, fantasy round table, fantasy round table, yeah. Fantasy round table. Come take a look at the crown, baby. Hey, fantasy round table, fantasy round table, woo. Fantasy round table. Come take a look at the crown, baby. Go.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Fantasy Football Roundtable Podcast. Week 14 is in the books. We are going to be talking about the games and the results, and that started on Thursday night last week as Dennis's Detroit Lions got the 44-30 victory.
One pride, baby,
over the Cowboys. That was an important one for both teams. Dennis, Cowboys are now 6-1. Where do you think they're headed?
So their defense is improving, and they have, which is crazy to think, oh, they traded one of the best defensive players in the league, and they're getting better. They got Overshown back. Logan Wilson's playing well. The defensive tackles are playing well. So the defense is improving. Javonte Williams having the type of year we all expected him to have coming out of college 17 years ago, finally having it. And then George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb are both monsters. And you still, that doesn't even include Jake Ferguson, who's what, tight end 1, tight end 2 on the year. So they can put up points. They just have to make just enough plays. They need their offensive line to stay healthy, to get healthy and stay healthy, and then hope Dak doesn't choke it away as he does occasionally. But, they have a shot to make a run. Philadelphia is faltering. Washington's out of it. Who am I missing? The Giants are out of it. So they could win the division potentially, or at least get a wild card, be tied with the Eagles.
Meanwhile, Detroit now 8-5, but they're still the 8th seed in the NFC. As long as I remember, there's still only 7 that make the playoffs, so still need a little bit of luck. What is it going to take for them to get in the playoffs?
So they're probably going to need to win at least 3 of their last 4. They do play the Bears the final week of the season, but they've lost to the Bears once already. So they
beat the Bears.
They did beat the Bears. So if they can finish tied with the Bears, again, another team, great explosive offense. Hopefully Amon-Ra's ankles rounds into shape. They don't have a tight end drawing targets anymore, so it's Amon-Ra, it's Jameson Williams, it's Jahmyr Gibbs putting up 40 points a week, and then David Montgomery coming out of nowhere. So they have a narrow funnel now. They can score some points. The defense is opportunistic, if not consistent yet. The defensive backs still can get a little handsy. You'd think they all went to Ohio State. But, Jack Campbell's playing phenomenal. Aiden Hutchinson, they have the ability. They just need to win. They need to keep winning, and then that puts their destiny in their own hands.
Next up, we go to Sunday's games. The Seahawks went to Atlanta, got the 37-9 victory over the Falcons. Dennis, we've waited for Rashid Shaheed to do anything since they traded for him. Saw 5 targets, caught 4 for 67, also had a punt return touchdown. Was this a positive sign?
Yeah. He was more productive than Cooper Kupp, more productive than the tight ends. He's definitely the number 2 behind JSN. I think one game does not a trend make. Let's see if it can continue going forward. Maybe we were a little overzealous thinking, he's going to slide right back into that Kubiak offense and be a phenomenal wide receiver too. Sam Darnold to the moon. But no, Shahid's a good player. Adding that return bonus is something that, I don't expect there to necessarily be another return touchdown, but you'll take what you can get. And if he can get 5 to 6 targets a game, we know he can be productive with that.
Meanwhile, the Falcons now 4-9, just haven't looked very good. They were not very good in Raheem Morris's first season, where they kind of faded and fell way out of contention. It's been a couple rough seasons for a team that fancied itself a contender. Do you think he survives this?
Yeah. No. Do I think he should? Yeah, I think he probably should. They drafted some young defensive players that are starting to make plays. Drake London's been out with injuries. Michael Penix, first year as a starter full-time, hasn't been super consistent, and then he got injured. They had to go back to Kirk Cousins, who, he's probably better than Phillip Rivers. That's for dang sure. So they've got some growing pains to get through. If they canned Morris after the season, I wouldn't be terribly surprised. Do I think he should get an opportunity to continue to build? Yeah, I mean, they're sitting they traded their pick, didn't they?
Yeah, they don't have a first round pick because they had 2 last year. So
yeah, so they're at 9. They were at 9. That's not great, but if they can split the next 2 games with a team that's beat up, missing Drake London, Darnell Mooney's starting to come on a little bit. He's somebody we hoped would be better, but struggled with injuries at the beginning of the season. The hard part is, Zach Robinson runs the offense. They have 2 bona fide stud running backs, and they sometimes it feels like they can't wait to go away from Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier.
The Buffalo Bills hosted the Cincinnati Bengals. Bengals got the the Bills got the 39-34 victory. Bengals now 4-9, not technically eliminated, but it's getting pretty dicey. What do they need to do if they want to make the playoffs?
Start the season over. Losing Joe Burrow for what they have, he was gone 8 weeks or something crazy. Yeah. And Browning was not as good as we expected based on our previous Jake Browning experience. Joe Flacco came in, and while good for fantasy, wasn't necessarily winning games. The defense is the worst defense in the league. Despite the Ravens and Steelers struggles, I don't expect Cincinnati to make the playoffs. Probably better for them if they don't. They need to revamp their defense. They need to add more power to their offensive line. They've got one of the best quarterbacks, 2 of the best receivers, and Chase Brown is, I think, RB13 on the year, RB7 over the last 6 weeks. It's an opportunity to continue to build that team, but they can't keep penny pinching. They gotta put Mike Brown in a home, spend a little bit of money, bring some players in, keep some players.
Meanwhile, for the Bills, James Cook, a couple of brutal fumbles on Sunday, had a couple of fumbles the week before. Is this a concern as we head down the stretch?
So I'm old. The Saints and the Chargers, there was this running back named Chuck Muncie. You remember him? So Chuck was one of the early progenitors of the big, tough runners that was a really good pass catcher. Chuck also had a cocaine problem, and he was notorious for fumbling, but he was good. I don't think James Cook has a cocaine problem. I just want to clarify that. But when you score points, both fantasy and real football points at the rate at which James Cook does, yes, you don't want fumbles, but you'll live with a little bit of that. He's fighting for a little bit of extra yardage, or, occasionally a mishap occurs. You don't want it, but you can work around it.
Meanwhile, the Tennessee Titans went to Cleveland, and what a shocking result. They got the 31-29 victory, a second win of the season for the Titans, but was winning a good thing for them?
It definitely hampers their ability to make a trade. It looks like there's probably 2 high-end QB prospects in this draft. And right now, the Giants aren't drafting one, and I don't think Tennessee is gonna. I think they've seen enough out of Cam Ward that says, we're gonna give this guy a shot for, a few seasons. Cleveland, on the other hand, they might trick themselves into thinking, hey, Shadeur's, got a chip on his shoulder, and he's gonna go Baker Mayfield and prove everybody wrong. If they have a chance at Fernando Mendoza or Dante Moore, I think Cleveland should take it. Vegas, they're the number 2 pick right now. They should be taking a quarterback. Tennessee, ideally, they could have stayed at the 101 and got a haul for that pick from one of these QB needy teams. At 3, they may still be able to get something from Cleveland. Maybe Cleveland is like, you're going to have to trade it to somebody else. And if you do, we'll live with Shedeur for another year. We're going to get Deshaun Watson back. Lord help us. And Tennessee, they're a young team, and you want to see growth. So it's probably better for them mentally to win than it is to lose.
Meanwhile, for Cleveland, as you mentioned, they opened the Deshaun Watson practice window. So what are you doing with Watson if you got him?
I'm trying to offload him and hoping he can be somebody else's headache. Watson had a stretch, the early part of his career, super productive. He's still, 29 years old, not quite 30. And it's possible that there's some there. I don't have high hopes for it, but it is a realistic thought that he could finally, after a rash of injuries and bad karma from his off the field shit, and maybe those injuries are a result of bad karma from his off the field shit. And at some point, maybe the universe is like, all right, you paid your dues. We're going to let you roll back out there. Ideally, I'm hoping somebody else is willing to take him off my hands. I don't know what kind of return you're going to get. If he comes back and plays okay in a game or two, maybe easier for you to move him. But it's a real roll of the dice.
The Minnesota Vikings hosted the Commanders. This was one of the more shocking results of the day. The Vikings getting the 31-0 victory. Tough beat for Zach Ertz. Took a brutal hit. They confirmed a torn ACL, among other things. His season is done. Is his career done?
I mean, it's not great for his athleticism and mobility, given the way he looked the last couple seasons. He could come back, be a nice catch and fall tight end, productive, team leader. They've got Ben Sinnott. I forget who the other tight end they're playing ahead of Sinnott is, but they put a pretty nice would they put a second or third round draft pick on Sinnott, so they believed in him coming out of college. So maybe it is time. Maybe he, transitions into this mentor role. They need to get healthy all across the board, though. They need Jaden Daniels to be healthy. They need Terry McLaurin to be healthy. They need a stud running back to improve their defense. I am curious about how their tandem of Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury is going to continue to roll.
Meanwhile, Vikings 31 points. JJ McCarthy looked remarkably better. What do we make of them?
I don't know, man. They had a 34-23 run pass ratio. He only threw for 163 yards. It was a classic JJ McCarthy, Jim Harbaugh University of Michigan game. If they could control the time of possession like they did in this game, 10 minutes on the plus side on the time of possession, I think McCarthy can be a serviceable quarterback at NFL level. I don't know that he can necessarily be great at the fantasy production that you need on a consistent basis. You'd like to think he could with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison there, but he only threw the ball 23 times. That feels like where they want him to be.
I'll be curious to see how he follows it up against the Cowboys this week. But it's been just when you're ready to write them off, 31-0. Miami Dolphins actually moved to 6-7 with a 34-10 win against the Jets. First win for Tua if the game was below 40 degrees, although he didn't have a lot to do with it. Devon Achane got injured, and Jalen Wright came in, 24 carries, 107 yards, and a touchdown. Achane questionable for this next week. If he misses, do you like Wright or Ollie Gordon more?
Boy, it sure felt 2 weeks ago, it sure felt easy to like Ollie Gordon, didn't it? But Wright got 52% of the snaps to Gordon's 25%. The big number. Wright didn't produce anything in the passing game, but neither did Gordon. And at least Wright had 3 targets. Gordon did have 17 yards on the ground and a touchdown. It feels like you should be on Jalen Wright, if for no other reason than, Ollie Gordon was an okay prospect, but not considered elite by any measure. I think Jalen Wright was probably the better prospect coming out of college. If Gordon had come out after his junior year, sophomore year, whatever it was, he had a phenomenal year at Oklahoma State, just like Chuba Hubbard did. Great year, stayed 1 year too long, trashed his draft capital. But week 13, Gordon outsnapped Wright 27-10%. And it was a healthy week for Devon Achane. So it could just be that Ollie Gordon's got his role as that 25%er, and Jalen Wright is the handcuff. And so if Achane is out this week, you roll with Wright because he's going to be the lead back. And when Achane comes back, Wright gets relegated back to the third RB.
Meanwhile, for the Jets, Tyrod Taylor went out with injury, has a groin injury. Justin Fields was inactive with a knee injury. So we saw Brady Cook. He was not great. Both Taylor and Fields currently questionable. If Taylor can't go, what do we make of this Jets situation?
Well, Indianapolis signed Phillip Rivers. Maybe the Jets can sign Chad Pennington. I mean, it's not great. It is not great, Bob. I don't know what to make of it. It's you don't want to start anybody. They can.
Chad Pennington is currently 49, and if I recall, he ended up retiring because his arm was gone. So this gives me pause.
So I mean, he's just only 5 years older than Phillip Rivers.
Okay. Yeah.
So also know Phillip Rivers' daughter, I think, is the same age as Riley Leonard.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think Rivers is actually going to play for the Colts either.
No, I think he's just there to help with grasping the offense, help improve the decision-making process. talk about it from the quarterback perspective because he's familiar with Steichen's offense from the San Diego days.
Yeah, it's going to be rough. The Saints went to Tampa Bay and got the 24-20 victory. Not a good look for
Weird.
the Bucs. Devin Neal carrying the load again, 19 carries, 70 yards, and a touchdown. Had a couple of receptions. What do you make of him?
I like him. I think he's doing pretty well. Classic hashtag 2 to 3 year window guy. He was a good prospect coming out, a la Ollie Gordon. So he's got good size. He's a 210 pounder. He can carry the load. He's serviceable in the passing game. Got decent athleticism, but he's not special in any area of running the football, but he'll do good. He's Tyler Algier. He's, Ollie Gordon. He's Devin Neal.
Buccaneers have been in something of a funk. I read that they've only won one game since Game 3 of the World Series, which feels like it was an eternity ago. Mike Evans tracking to be activated here for Week 15. Can he help pull them out of the funk?
I mean, he can't hurt. That's for dang sure. Bringing Evans back with a reasonably healthy Godwin and Ibuka, there goes our Kate Otten shares. Bucky Irving's back now too, though, so he didn't have like a super efficient day this week. Did get in the end zone, made some plays, ran the ball pretty well. He'll ride right back into his prominent role in the running game. And Evans, if he's healthy, you're going to start him. He's going to do what he does. He only needs 860 yards to get to 1,000 for the 12th consecutive year or something, 13th year.
Yeah, it's going to be going hard there. Next up, the Jacksonville Jaguars hosted the Indianapolis Colts. Not a good week for the Colts. Jaguars win 36-19. Daniel Jones, torn Achilles. He was on a 1-year deal. We thought he was tracking toward being a guy that was going to be in demand this offseason. But what happens with Daniel Jones now? And what are you doing if you have him in Dynasty?
So the question comes down to how well does Riley Leonard play? And did Shane Steichen see enough out of Daniel Jones to say, he can be our bridge quarterback? So we had, it's not the first torn Achilles in recent seasons. Rodgers had one, Cousins had one. They've both come back. This feels kind of late in the year for him to be ready at the beginning of the year, but I haven't really looked at what the timeline would be. And I could be way off. I could just be thinking like, oh, well, it's an Achilles. Oh my God. And really as a quarterback, it's not like it is for a running back necessarily, though Jones did rely on his mobility a lot. And it may end up hampering him more than it did, say, somebody like Cousins or Aaron Rodgers in their return from the torn Achilles. I think they've invested a year in him. He looked good in the offense for the most part. And given what their other options are and their other needs, I think they could probably, if they see enough out of Riley, I forget his last name now. Riley Leonard. If they see enough out of him, and they did spend a first-round draft pick on Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones, it may be worth it for them to roll one more year before they look at rebuilding that quarterback room. Use this year to resupply the O-line. They've got a great wide receiver room, adding Tyler Warren. Jonathan Taylor is still at peak. So, restack the offensive line, spend a little money on defense. And, the Ravens won the Super Bowl with Brad Johnson. So
The Jaguars, meanwhile, remain in first in the AFC South, would currently be the third seed in the AFC. Can they make a run in the playoffs?
Yeah. So they can, it looks like they can win 3 of their last 4, 2 of the last 4 pretty comfortably, 3 of them with some ease. Denver's going to be the real problem for them. They've got the Jets this week. That should be, I'm going to, let the cat out of the bag here. I'm pretty sure I'm picking Jacksonville over the Jets this week. Then they play Indianapolis. So it's a head-to-head. And then they close out with the Titans, another division game. So they're looking pretty good to win 3 of 4. So that should put them in at least as the third seed.
Yeah. Big one in the AFC North. The Steelers went into Baltimore and got the 27-22 victory. The Steelers had kind of been fading away. Big win here, puts them back in front in the division. Are they back on track?
So they have one more game versus Baltimore. Detroit's probably their toughest remaining game. See here real quick. Who's that? Who am I talking about? The Ravens or the Steelers?
No, the Steelers.
Yeah, so I just pulled up the Ravens. I confused
they're
myself.
Dolphins, and then at the Lions, at the Browns, home for the Ravens.
So it feels like an easy 2-2. That being said, the Ravens can get hot at any time. They can beat the Ravens in Week 18. The Browns, the Browns got a great defense. That could give them problems, but it feels like that should be a win. Miami's playing well, and so that it should be a win, but you never know. I like Detroit. I'm always going to pick my boys, but it feels like they're looking at least a split, and having the 2 games over Baltimore pretty much pushes. I don't think the Bengals are a serious contender at this point. It feels like the Steelers are going to back into a division title.
Meanwhile, the Ravens now 6-7. Their last 4 not great. At the Bengals, who just beat them on Thanksgiving, then versus the Patriots, at the Packers, at the Steelers. What happens with Baltimore this offseason, especially if they flame out and miss the playoffs?
Well, they signed Andrews to an extension, so he'll be back. Their defense is starting to round into shape. They need to add a little bit more to it. They got Roquan Smith and a couple other players. Really, a lot of what's happened in Baltimore is, Lamar is passing the ball at a relatively average level for him as compared to past seasons. He's not running the ball as efficiently, and his running production is way down. Derrick Henry hasn't been as efficient in the run game. So they may need to, get Lamar healthy and evaluate what they want to do in the running game. I don't hate their passing weapons. It does feel like they're probably going to let Likely walk, but we expected them to let Andrews walk, and they signed him to an extension. They got Flowers. They got Bateman. I don't know what DeAndre Hopkins does. He may decide to go, I'm going to run my fashion company, or, but Tez Walker seems to be the heir apparent there.
His whole trying to go somewhere to win a title has not been paying off for him in the last couple of years.
He can't pick for shit. Hopefully he's not gambling.
The Broncos went to Las Vegas, got the 24-17 victory. Another big game for RJ Harvey. He's really dominating the backfield touches, getting some touchdowns the last few weeks. Do you like him as an every week start going forward?
Yeah, especially given the level of competition he has for touches. Jaleel McLaughlin, Tyler Beatty, however you pronounce it. I'm probably missing somebody there. Like, he probably Audric Estime would be a substantially higher threat to his volume than any of the other backs on this team. So yeah, fire him up. He's a good pass catcher. But he had 6 targets, caught all 6 passes for 25 yards to go, 75 yards rushing and a touchdown.
Man.
He's dominating the ground game. I'm not sitting him anywhere.
Meanwhile, for the Raiders, Geno got injured, knocked out. Kenny Pickett came in to finish. If Geno can't go, do you like Pickett?
No. I mean, he is, to be fair, he's not going to be that much worse than Geno. Might even be a little bit better because Geno has been, pretty bad this year. That's probably the biggest question mark of a team in the league for me, because you've got the oldest coach in the league trying to start over, bringing in old players from the last time he was successful, and firing your offensive coordinator who, maybe he deserved it. I don't know. But I don't think Greg, not Roman, Olson, he could potentially be decent as the offensive coordinator there. And if I had to guess, I'd say Olson and Chip Kelly were butting heads, and Pete went with the guy he knows. So it's going to be, I feel bad for Max Crosby. He deserves better.
Los Angeles Rams went to Arizona, got the 45-17 victory. Colby Parkinson now 4 touchdowns in the last 5 games. Are you liking him as a streaming tight end option?
Yeah, he's tight end 5 since week 10. And it just really comes down to somebody's got to be the third option there. They throw the ball some to Kyron Williams. Speaking of which, I missed my note I had on RJ Harvey, which was he's kind of an athletic Kyron Williams. Parkinson is, he's definitely, at worst, he's streamable, and at best, he's a comfortable low-end tight end 2. Or 1, excuse me.
For the Cardinals, this is the last week of Trey Benson's practice window. If they don't activate him, he reverts back to IR for the rest of the season. It's apparently not a lock that he gets activated. So what are we doing with Trey Benson?
Well, hopefully he's still on your taxi squad so you don't have to deal with that. If he gets activated, I don't want to say it's a waste of a roster spot because he's young and he has some potential. I'm just not sure where his opportunities are going to come from consistently. I don't know. Is there still a chance James Conner comes back?
No.
He's all right. So Benson is going to have to steal carries away from Bam Knight and Michael Carter. And if Emari DeMarcado comes back, Emari DeMarcado, which when I say it out loud, it feels like he should be able to, but throughout the course of first couple years of his career, he hasn't taken carries from anybody on that team. So maybe he is, the later season Devin Neal.
One can only hope. The Green Bay Packers, host of the Chicago Bears, got the 28-21 victory. Dennis, Caleb Williams not doing too bad. Has the Bears at 9-4. Doesn't get as much publicity as Drake May or Bo Nix or even Jaden Daniels did last year. But how are we feeling about him in Dynasty?
I feel pretty good. I mean, he's QB7 on the year. There is some volatility, and you have to learn to live with that. But he's a second-year quarterback in the first year of the Ben Johnson offensive system. He needs to settle in. He's moved from consciously incompetent to consciously competent, I think, in the Ben Johnson system, meaning he knows most of what he's supposed to be doing, but he's still having to think pretty hard about it. He's not at unconsciously competent with it yet. Let him keep rolling out these opportunities, making plays. They've got great weapons in Odunze and Burden. I'd love to say they have a great weapon in DJ Moore, but I think Ben Johnson hates DJ Moore more than he hated DeAndre Swift in Detroit. So, the running game with Swift and Kyle Monangai looks great. They've got two solid tight ends in Kmet, and Colson Loveland has come on and flashed with his athleticism. So Caleb Williams, with the improving offensive line, I'm in. If I can find a manager that has soured on him, and I can buy it a little bit of a discount, I'm definitely taking the shot.
Meanwhile, another 2-touchdown day for Christian Watson. Are you believing in him down the stretch?
So we've talked before, and the one thing that we've always said is, like, he is the guy that is the alpha wide receiver one archetype on that team. But he just can't stay healthy. But when he is healthy, man, he's great. He's big. He's fast. Occasionally he gets a little bit of the dropsies, but man, he's big and fast, and he can do a lot of the things that they need and really provides a boost to that game. I'm going to ride him until he breaks again.
Yeah, I know. It's still just hard to believe. Sunday Night Football, the Houston Texans went to Kansas City, got the 20-10 victory. It wasn't always pretty, but the Texans get the win, go to 8-5. What do you make of their offense?
So I saw a tweet a couple days ago that said the Texans are a competent O-line away from being a Super Bowl contender. It might have even said champion, but I didn't go back and search that hard for it. And I agree. They give them a couple more stud offensive linemen, give that line some time to gel. Woody Marks is a capable running back. They do need to add a little more depth. Dario Gumbawale is, he's moved on from almost was to never was. Nick Chubb is, he's in the has-been phase of his career thanks to the injuries. They do need a little more boost there. But Jaden Higgins has played great to the point where I started Christian Kirk a couple of weeks ago, and then he put up a goose egg, and I'm like, oh, I must have missed him being inactive, and he played 37% of the snaps. Higgins and Jalen Noel, whichever it is, the other Iowa State receiver they have there, and Xavier Hutchinson, are just kind of gobbling up targets behind Nico Collins, and then Dalton Schultz being, he's Colby Parkinson Southwest when it comes to tight ends. He's low. He's probably streamable most weeks, and 50% of the time he's going to get you low end tight end one production.
Meanwhile, the Chiefs now 6-7, probably staring at some tough questions this offseason. What are we doing with Chiefs long term? I imagine you're staying invested in Mahomes and Rice, but is everything else kind of a toss-up?
I like Worthy still, and even Hollywood Brown. I like that trio of wide receivers. The Chiefs have had injuries along their offensive line, which puts a lot more pressure on Patrick Mahomes to put the team on his back and carry it. They don't have shit for a running game. Kareem Hunt will grind it out. You give him 30 carries and he'll get you 90 yards and probably a touchdown. But he's not very efficient. Isaiah Pacheco isn't efficient. They need I saw a post the other day that basically said to paraphrase it, the biggest sin this season was the Chiefs not trading for Breece Hall at the trade deadline. But the Chiefs were down to their third string left tackle. Trey Smith was out who's widely regarded as the best guard in the NFL. Travis Kelce is, dropping passes left and right now. It seems so. They're going to have to do some soul searching. It would probably be better for them to not make the playoffs so they can get into reconstruction mode.
Yeah. Monday Night Football, not a lot better. The Eagles went to Los Angeles. Chargers got the 22-19 overtime victory. What the hell was up with Jalen Hurts? 4 interceptions, a fumble, actually had a negative 4-point play, which no one had ever seen. What is going on?
You know, my dad used to say, some days you get the bear, some days the bear gets you. You know, Hurts is he's got having so across the season, lowest completion percentage in 4 years. His rushing production is not making up for the lack of passing the way it did for fantasy. His rushing yards are down 43% versus the last 4 years. His rushing touchdowns are down 26% versus the last 4 years. So it's just one of those situations where, you know, honestly, I think they are suffering through the post Jason Kelce fog. Lane Johnson has been injured. It seems like as often as he's been not. I get it. He's a Hall of Fame right tackle, but he's old. He's gotten up there. They just need to, again, they're another team that needs to invest a little bit of money in their offensive line. Defense is pretty good when they're healthy. They've got some playmakers. They do a good job. It's kind of one of those things where life just catches up with you some years.
Meanwhile, for the Chargers, we saw the new look backfield of Omarion Hampton and Kamani Vidal. They pretty well evenly split carries and targets. What did you think of this backfield?
I'm a little nervous. You know, Vidal was RB20 on the week. He played 69% of the snaps, had 17 opportunities. He did put up 11.4 fantasy points, but 7 of them came on the 60-yard reception. Hampton was RB17, only played 31% of the snaps, had 15 opportunities, put up 14.7 fantasy points. He had better rushing yardage, and he also had a receiving touchdown to kind of help buoy him. It felt more like it was we're going to ease Hampton back into it a little bit, make sure, you know, he's good to go because he's missed several weeks. And Vidal has been performing pretty well. I would expect at worst a 50-50 split as opposed to a 70-30. And I would not be surprised at all if we see Hampton 55 or 60% of the snaps next week and getting a much larger share of the running game. I do think while Hampton is a capable pass catcher, I do think Vidal will be more usable in PPR or more productive in the passing game. I shouldn't say that because if Hampton's rushing for 80 yards but only getting 3 targets, I think you're going to take that 80 yards.
Yeah, well, that'll do it for us for the Week 14 recap. We will be back on Thursday previewing Week 15. Bye weeks are over. Fantasy playoffs are here for most people, including us. So maybe we'll recap where we're at with some of our playoffs. I was looking at my thing this morning. I think there was only 3 leagues where I missed the playoffs, which feels pretty good.
Yeah, I had probably the worst feeling you can get when a team you're trying to tear down and rebuild makes the playoff as the 6th seed.
Yeah, I made one in a league where I was I think not everybody was setting a valid lineup every week, and I still did, even though I didn't really want to win and I thought my team sucks. So I'm going to laugh if I go far, but we will see how it goes. We will be back to preview all of the action, so hope you guys enjoy that. If you need to kill some time, Dennis, what can the people do?
Swing on over to your favorite podcast platform and hit that search button. Type in the Fantasy Football Roundtable Podcast. Give us a subscribe. Give us a like. We still got a few more weeks to go.
There you go. Thank you very much, and we will see you guys on Thursday. Until then, have a wonderful evening.